We all know Louis Vuitton's life begins like a legend. A boy leaves his village, walks toward Paris, learns how to build trunks, and gives his name to a brand that will one day sit at the center of global luxury. That beginning is true. In 1837, Louis Vuitton arrived in Paris and became an apprentice to Romain Maréchal, a master trunk maker and packer. But our question is not how the name began. Our question is how a name that began with travel trunks became part of a system powerful enough to move money, status, and desire across the world. Because Louis Vuitton did not become important only because people needed luggage. It became important because, over time, the object stopped being only an object. A trunk became travel, travel became status, status became a price, and eventually, that price became part of a much larger empire. To understand that empire, we do not begin in a workshop. We begin in the 1980s, when French luxury was being reorganized by finance. In 1987, Louis Vuitton and Moët Hennessy merged to create LVMH. On the surface, it looked like a natural union: champagne, cognac, leather goods, French prestige. But behind the elegance was a question of power. The brands were famous. The structure was not yet settled. The future of the group was open. Bernard Arnault entered at that moment, not as a designer or craftsman, as a man who had already learned that the strongest part of a company is sometimes not its factories, its workers, or even its current profits. Sometimes it is the name. 3 years earlier, in 1984, Arnault had taken control of Boussac, a struggling French textile and retail group. Boussac represented an older industrial France: factories, debt, politics, and declining competitiveness. But hidden inside Boussac was Christian Dior, not just a fashion house, but one of the most valuable symbols of French elegance. That was the important part. Arnault saw the difference between industrial weight and symbolic value. The textile structure was weak. Dior still had power. So he separated the valuable name from the failing body around it. Assets were sold. Operations were cut. About 9,000 workers lost their jobs. This is where Arnault's reputation hardened. He was called the Terminator. Later, in luxury circles, he would also be described as the Wolf in Cashmere. Those nicknames are not the story by themselves. They matter because they show how different his method felt to the old luxury world. Luxury liked to speak the language of heritage, craft, and elegance. Arnault spoke the language of value, structure, and financial discipline. With Boussac, he learned that a luxury name could survive the collapse of the company around it. With LVMH, he found something larger, not one name, but a group of names that could become a global system. After the 1987 merger, LVMH was still divided by internal conflict. Arnault bought shares, used financial allies, and moved through that conflict until, by 1989, he was leading the group. From that point on, LVMH was no longer just a collection of historic houses. It became a way to gather luxury under one roof. And this is where the modern story connects to a much older French idea. Because Arnault did not invent the connection between luxury and power. France had already understood that connection under Louis XIV. In the second half of the 17th century, France was not only trying to look magnificent, it was trying to make magnificence useful. Louis XIV, the Sun King, ruled through spectacle. Versailles was not simply a residence, it was a political stage. The mirrors, the gardens, the ceremonies, the clothing, the furniture, the rank of every person in the room, all of it made power visible. At court, status had to be seen. A noble did not only serve the king, he had to appear near the king. He had to dress correctly, spend correctly, behave correctly, be recognized. Versailles turned hierarchy into daily performance. But performance costs money. Palaces cost money. Wars cost money. Court life cost money. The image of glory required constant financial support. This is where Jean-Baptiste Colbert becomes central. Colbert served Louis XIV from 1661 until his death in 1683 and became one of the key figures of French economic policy. His problem was simple to describe but hard to solve. France could not remain powerful by spending endlessly and buying prestige from others. It had to produce prestige itself. If French elites wanted luxury, France should make it. If foreign courts wanted luxury, France should sell it. If money was going to move through status and taste, Colbert wanted that money moving toward France. This was not just about beautiful objects, it was economic policy. Colbert encouraged skilled workers to bring their trades to France. He supported private industries. He founded state manufactures. He pushed rules and standards to protect the reputation of French goods. The Gobelins manufactory shows the idea clearly. From 1662, Colbert brought artisans to Gobelins to create royal furniture, tapestries, metalwork, engraving, and decorative arts. The aim was economic and political: reduce expensive imports and assert French superiority in luxury products. These objects decorated royal spaces. They impressed visitors. They could become diplomatic gifts. They made French taste visible abroad. In other words, Colbert was not treating luxury as decoration. He was turning it into national infrastructure. France would not only consume expensive things, France would manufacture desire, attach it to French skill, and send it outward. When other countries paid for French taste, money moved toward the French center. That was the older system. Now look again at LVMH. The century has changed. The tools have changed. There is no Sun King sitting at Versailles. There is no minister trying to collect gold and silver through mercantilist policy. But the movement of money is familiar. A desire for status is shaped into objects. Those objects are wrapped in reputation. The reputation allows a higher price. The higher price pulls money toward whoever owns the structure. In Colbert's France, that structure served the state. In Arnault's world, it serves the group. This is why LVMH's expansion matters. It is not simply buying brands for size, it is collecting different entrances into luxury life. Louis Vuitton gives travel, leather goods, and visible status. Dior gives couture, beauty, and French elegance. Moët and Hennessy give celebration, ritual, and prestige. Sephora, acquired by LVMH in 1997, opens a different door. Beauty as a daily shopping experience, available to millions of customers who may never buy couture but can still enter the atmosphere of luxury. Tiffany, completed under LVMH in 2021, brings another kind of power: American romance, jewelry, the blue box, engagement, Fifth Avenue, and emotional ritual. Together, these brands do not sell the same product. They sell different versions of elevation: a bag for recognition, a perfume for elegance, a watch for success, a bottle for celebration, a diamond for love made visible, a store for the feeling that you have entered a higher room. That is why 75 brands under one roof matters. It is not just a portfolio. It is a map of where people spend money when they want life to feel larger than it is. And this is the real continuity between Colbert and Arnault. Colbert worked in a world of monarchy, tariffs, workshops, and royal prestige. Arnault works in a world of acquisitions, boutiques, media, celebrities, airports, malls, finance, and global consumers. Colbert wanted French luxury to strengthen France. Arnault built LVMH into a corporate center where global luxury spending can be gathered, organized, and expanded. One system belonged to a state, the other belongs to a company, but both are built on the same human material. People want more than function. They want recognition. They want distance from ordinary life. They want objects that say something before they do. This is why asking, "Why would someone pay so much for a bag?" is too small. The better question is, what are they really paying for? A Louis Vuitton bag carries belongings, but that is not why it commands attention. A Tiffany box holds jewelry, but the box itself already speaks. A Dior scent is invisible, but the name gives it a world. A bottle of champagne is a drink, but it also marks success. The product is only the visible part. Underneath it is a system that gives the product meaning before the customer ever touches it. 3 centuries ago, France learned that this meaning could serve national power. Today, LVMH shows that the same logic can serve corporate power. The shell has changed. The court became the flagship store. The royal manufactory became the global supply chain. The noble audience became the international consumer. Gold and silver became revenue, margins, and market value. But the basic movement remains. Turn status into desire, turn desire into objects, and turn objects into money flowing toward the center. Louis Vuitton's walk to Paris explains the origin of a name. It does not explain the modern empire. The empire begins when luxury stops being only craft and becomes a system for organizing what people want to become. So when we look at modern luxury, the final question is not simply whether a product is worth its price. The final question is whether we are paying for leather, glass, gold, scent, and fabric, or whether we are paying into a system that has spent more than 300 years learning how to turn human status into money.